What's up, guys? Welcome back to Tank Control Games. Fuck. This is gonna be a hard intro to get through. Welcome back to Tank Control Games, here with another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, and today we're gonna be creating this mechanic where we can use our microphone to animate a character's mouth. Similar systems have been used in a couple indie games lately, like R.E.P.O and I've Gotta Go, and it always makes me laugh when I see it. It's super funny. So to achieve this, I created a really simple rig in Maya with just two joints, a root and a mouth joint, which I'll make available in the description of this video so you can download this and follow along. But if you want, you can use your own rig. Basically anything with a mouth joint is going to work for this. So if this looks interesting to you, let's open up the Unreal project browser and begin. I'm going to be using Unreal 5.6 for this tutorial, so I'll launch my browser. So when that loads, go to the Games tab and select the third-person template, and then name your project whatever you like. I'm just going to call mine Muppet. And then do Create. Okay, so when your project loads, the first thing we want to do is check that we have the audio capture plugin enabled. So click on Edit, Plugins, and search Audio. So it's enabled in mine. If it's not enabled in yours, just click the little check and then restart the editor. So that looks good. Then the next thing we want to do is import the rig. So let's go to the content drawer and choose Import, and then go to wherever you downloaded the rig from the description, and then just click Open. Then you can probably keep all of these settings as default and just do import. Cool, so now we have our skeletal mesh, our skeleton, and our physics asset. So let's take a look at the skeletal mesh. And it's pretty big, so we're probably going to scale this down once we actually use this in the blueprint. The only other thing we want to check is just to make sure that our skeleton is functioning properly. So with the skeleton open, just click jaw top and then rotate it a bit just to make sure it's working. So if that's opening, we're good. You might also notice that this has just textured eyes, and then in the intro we were using googly eyes. I'll show you how to create those googly eyes. That's using physics constraints, but it'll probably be in another video. Cool, so now let's open up our third-person character. And let's just swap out the current mannequin for our new character. So if you click on Mesh, and then go to Skeletal Mesh Asset, and then we're just going to swap the mannequin with Muppet Rig. And they're a little on the larger side, so let's just scale them down so they kind of fit within the capsule. And I'm going to turn off the different snapping, and we'll just do something like that. That'll be fine for now, it doesn't have to be perfect. So if we click play now, yep, we have our Muppet character moving around. We can still do everything the mannequin could do, jump. So now what we want to do too, we don't actually want to use the animation blueprint from this mannequin. So if we click there, you'll see we're using ABP unarmed. So instead of that, we're going to create our own animation blueprint. So right click, we'll make a new folder for this too. Let's just do anim blueprints. And in that folder, just do animation blueprint. And then for skeleton, do the Muppet Rig skeleton. And name it ABP Muppet. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is add an audio capture component to this blueprint. So do add and search audio. And then it's this synth audio capture, so click that. Next, what we want to do under the details for that, let's search for auto, and then do auto activation, and just make that true. Okay, so to make use of our audio capture component, let's click the component, and then go down to the bottom where it has our events, and we want on audio envelope value. So click the little plus button, and then that'll get that event. So what we can do to kind of test that this is working is just make a print string, and then we can just see if we're actually getting an envelope value when we use our microphone. So I'm using a Scarlett mic, but I've tested this with AirPods and a couple other mics, so it should work with anything that you have. And let's just click play. And then when I'm talking, it might be hard to see on your screen, but the values are going higher the louder I talk. And then the quieter I talk, they tend to stay a little lower. So we're going to use this to make the character's mouth move. So the first thing we want to do is promote this to a variable. And it could just be called envelope value, that's fine. Then we want to map the envelope value's range. So let's do map range clamped. And then for the in range, let's say 0.01, so like the lowest value when there is noise, and then let's say 0.2 for the in range B, and then we're going to remap that to just 0 to 1. And then we're going to promote that to another variable, and we're just going to call this mic volume, or just raw mic volume. So something like that, that should be good. And this is all we need in the third person character. So now we're going to go into the animation blueprint we created. So in the animation blueprint, let's go to event blueprint update animation. And the first thing we're going to do is promote delta time x to a variable. And then what we want to do is get the pawn owner, or try get pawn owner. And then we're going to cast to our third person character. And using that cast, we can get our variable that we created for raw mic volume. Let's drag off of there and do get raw mic volume, and then just promote that to a variable. So we can make use of this right away and pretty instantly have it start moving our character's mouth. It won't look good if you just use this value as is, and I'll show you why in a second. So we can go into our anim graph, and then let's just set this up so we can actually animate the mouth. So do transform bone, transform modify bone, and then hook that up to the output pose. And then for the bone to modify, we're going to set it to be our jaw top. And then if you just did like, we just rotate X by -100, it'll do nothing, and that's actually because we need to set a rotation mode. So do add to existing, and there you go. Now it's opening up the character's mouth. And we probably want this to be bone space. So we can use our raw mic volume variable to actually create that rotation, and I'll show you what that looks like. We probably want to multiply it by slightly higher value since it comes out pretty small. So let's try like -100. And then we need to make rotator. And roll is the correct one, so that's fine. And then just plug that into rotation. And this will do nothing if we click play, because we also have to go into our third person character, go under mesh, and then change our anim class to be our new Muppet anim class. Okay, so if we click play and test this out, it will move the mouth, and it looks okay, I guess, but it's very jittery, and it's not quite what we want. So although this works, this is not what we're going to do. We're basically going to set up a system where there's going to be some thresholding for what's considered talking and not talking, and we're going to have a threshold for on and off, and then we're also going to have a timer that kind of holds the mouth open longer while you're still talking, just to make this kind of look more like the character's mouth is moving along with your voice. And then if you were to like hold a longer sound, the mouth will stay open for a period of time before closing again, and that'll just look much more natural than it does now. So to set that up, let's go back to our event blueprint update animation. And then off of raw mic volume, we're going to get a sequence node. And then we're going to do some checks. So the first check that we're going to do, if we get a branch, is going to be taking the raw mic volume, and then we're going to check this against a threshold on variable that we don't have yet. So let's create it. Do threshold on, and this will be a float variable. And then the default for this can be something like 0.0001. So something really small. And these values you're going to probably have to tweak depending on your specific mic. because it'll depend. I'm using like a Scarlett mic now, and this will work with any mic, but the values might have to change depending on like how loud your mic gets or how much it reads your voice. So we'll start with 0001 for this. And then while we're at it, let's just make, we'll duplicate that and make a threshold on, or a threshold off as well. And then for that variable, we'll make it like 0.01. And the only reason I know these values is because I tested with this specific mic, so I've already previously done this. So this will work for us. Then hook that up to the condition. So first we check if the raw mic volume is greater than threshold on. And if it is not, we instantly do another check. So we want to get raw mic volume and then do less than, and check if it's less than our threshold off, and get another branch. So if it's less than threshold off, we want to start a speaking timer. So we'll create a value for that. So speaking timer. So when this is true, we want to set our speaking timer. And to set this, we're going to do speaking timer minus our delta time. So do subtract. And then hook that up to the set. Then after setting that, we also want to do another check. So get a branch, and we're going to do, is our speaking timer less than or equal to 0? And if it is less than or equal to 0, then we want to set a variable that'll track if we are speaking. So we don't have that yet either, so we can create another variable, and this one's going to be a bool. And let's name it B is speaking. And then drag that out and do set. And then let's reset our speaking timer on the true of this. So we'll just drag our speaking timer variable and do set and just set it to 0. So when speaking timer is less than or equal to 0, set is speaking to false and speaking timer back to 0. And that looks good for this path. And we'll continue on our true path. If it is true, we want to take our speaking timer. Actually, when it is true, we want to set our speaking timer. And we're going to set this against speaking hold time, which will basically just be like how long while you're speaking do you want to keep the mouth open. And this is a value you're going to want to tweak basically however the style that you want this to be, but when you're talking and you're holding like a note or a higher level of your voice, how long you want the mouth to stay open. So let's make a variable off of this. So do promote to variable and then call that speaking hold time. And I'm gonna set that default to be 0.03. Okay, so this should be good. Then after that, we want to set our is speaking boolean to be true. So after all that, then we can go back to our sequence node and do the second path. So what we want to do after doing all of these checks is we want to set the jaw open amount. So we'll make another variable and it's going to be a float. Call that jaw open amount. And then drag that into the graph. And actually, let's do a set. So we're going to set that at the end of all this. So just do set, drag off of the sequence node. So we want to interpolate the jaw open amount so that we can have a like smoother opening and closing. And then we'll also set it up so that we can configure the open and close speed so that if you want it to open faster or close faster or slower, you can set that yourself. So what we want to do is get an f-interp2, and then drag out our jaw open amount, and that'll be the current, and then also our delta time x. And then for the target, let's do a, we're gonna do a select float, but we're gonna do it off of our is speaking variable. So let's do select float. And then it says it'll pick A if you are speaking. So when it's A, we want to do our open amount. And then this is a variable we don't have yet, but this will be like how wide the max open of the mouth can be. So we'll just say open amount, and then for a default for that, let's do 0.3. And you can change this if you want the mouth to open wider or less wide. But I found this one works pretty well, so we'll hook that up like that. Then just hook that return value into the target. And then interp speed's where we're going to control opening or closing. So to set that, let's do another select float. So get our jaw open, our B is speaking variable, and then make another select float. And then we want our open speed and our close speed, which we don't have variables for yet, so let's just make them. So promote this to a variable, and instead of A, just make that open speed. And then for B, promote to a variable, and let's make that close speed. So if you are speaking or you're not speaking, then you know you're opening or closing your mouth. So we can have custom interp speeds based on that so that it'll open or close slower. So just hook that up to interp speed like that. And then for default variables, let's do open speed, set this to 20. And then for close speed, 10. So this should be good. And honestly, I think that might be all of the logic we need. So we can test this and see if it's working. So let's click play. Okay, so now I'm going to talk, and and I think it's looking much better. So now it's, you can see it's a smooth interp between opening and closing. And also if you hold your loudness level for like a period of time, if you do like, the character will hold the mouth open. And that looks really nice. I think that definitely looks more like the character's talking with my voice. So you can continue to tweak these settings and you might find values that work better for your mic. But I think this is going to do it for the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It'll help my channel grow. If you have any suggestions for future tutorials, leave them in the comments. And if you need any help troubleshooting this setup, just ping me on Discord. We have a bit of a community growing there, and I'd be happy to help. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.